Another episode of Reclaiming Timeless Ways. You have joined Mike Traster along with myself, Simon Fuller. We appreciate you going along for another joyride, right, Mike?
Another joyride.
Another episode underway. And where are you going to lead us?
Oh, another high-speed run away from the cops at 100 miles.
Gravel roads, through fields, over ravines.
Right.
Maybe ramp a culvert or two.
Right. Cops give up the chase and call a helicopter,
And then we're done. We're toast at that
We
point.
just park it in the woods and
Yeah.
walk home. Somebody stole my car. Anger, vengeance, and justice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we've all felt angry.
Right, yes.
We've all felt vengeful, whether we acted upon it or not. We've all been there.
Right.
And justice is something when you've been wronged, you want. My wife watches a lot of murder shows. Now, I'm not sure where you're taking me, Mike, but she watches a lot of those, crime shows. And they always talk about justice for the family, justice for the family. Kind of the end result once they've caught the offender. And, what is that? I don't know.
There has to be a scale, and it has to be, there was a bureau in New York City called Weights and Measures, but I think the guys that inspected the scales sometimes were honest, sometimes,
Yeah.
So if you don't have a scale, an honest scale, then you have the roots of noxious weeds of tyranny setting in, right? So, the old saying, what is it? Vengeance is a dish best served cold.
Yeah.
It takes time. You're not going to get it what you deserve to get back, right? If you go to the store and you spend $500 on a lawnmower and it's garbage, and you read the fine print and they misled you, and you have to spend $200 for shipping, and then spend $300 for some other nonsense, you're going to double the price of the mower, and you're better off going somewhere else.
Right.
So what do? Do you double the price of the mower, or do you go buy a used one for $30 and say, payday's coming, and then communicate, right? You tell 50 neighbors, I would never buy a mower from them again.
Yeah.
Right? Or my experience with a large local hardware store about 10 years ago. They mixed up some paint for me for a second coat with their little computer. I think the best way to say it is when I got done with the second coat, my house looked like a zebra. So I went back. I think I had some receipts, and I said, this is the person that did the matching, and I bought like 6 gallons of paint. I think it was $180. Oh no, we can't do anything for you. I said, really? Yep. Okay. I'll never buy paint from you again. And I will tell some people. And I think I bought paint from them when it was on clearance at like 10% or something.
Yeah.
Right? Not 10% off, 10%, or 20%. And I told many people, I wouldn't buy paint wire. So go to Walmart, and if they can match it, they will, and if they can't, they will tell you, right? Don't waste your money. You'll spend $8 on gas and save $200.
Yeah.
Oh. So I did that continually. Why? Because I deserve to do that, and they deserve to get spanked, right?
Right.
I mean, that was, it's like a ticket, not for going 58 and a 50,
Right.
for going 88 and a 50. That one's deserved. The other one, nah, not really, So blind justice means that it's fair, Blind retribution, that's crazy. That's like when you cross over and you become a criminal,
Yeah.
So, I think with justice, one of the things that we have is we have prosecuting attorneys who are immersed in hyper-liberal thinking, And when a prosecuting attorney is immersed in hyper-liberal thinking, predators become victims, and victims become villains. So somebody's kid gets the crap kicked out of them in the street, and the prosecuting attorney comes out with a rag, and they're wringing the rag, and they're going, "Oh, this is terrible, that poor child." And everybody's going, "Yeah, the poor child that gave him the beating was suffering terribly. They have a bad life. You can't imagine how bad it is." That might be true, but they're a predator.
Yeah.
And they victimized the kid, and now they've made that kid damaged emotionally and physically. What about them?
Right.
Oh, we have to pay attention to the kid who had because what's always going on behind that is there's somebody that's getting. So the prosecuting attorney has a job, and they sell their bullshit to the public, right? Their pity party. So they get reelected by people who are wringing their rags, right? Maybe their kids are predators. Oh, I wouldn't want my Johnny to go to jail. Yeah, he beat up a couple people and broke their faces, but he's a good kid. Except he isn't, right? And, maybe they know some of the local defense attorneys. Right, so there's a money circle.
Oh, yeah.
Right? An influence circle. What does this have to do with justice? What does this have to do with having a lawful community based on basic, clear, fair laws to assure us of living a civilized life, sane and secure, right? That's supposedly what a prosecuting attorney is. Or if the prosecuting attorney and the mayor get together and they basically hang the police chief halfway over a cliff and say, "You want your job? We don't want this one prosecuted." Now the police chief can't do his job. He doesn't want the wife to divorce him. He's not a victim either. He's folding, right? But in the process of all this, what happens to the kid that got his supraorbital ridge of his skull fractured and his vision permanently impaired and he can't speak right and he's got neck damage? Oh, well, he was a privileged kid. He has good insurance. What does that mean? Screw him. There's no justice there, right? So somewhere along the line, if somebody says to you, "Well, what do you think of so-and-so? Should I hire him to work in my hardware store, and that's the one that beat your kid half to death? What should you do?"
Yeah, it's interesting, Mike. Unfortunately, reality is a lot of, as I'm listening to you, what it sounds like is a lot of different TV shows you watch. But
No, I don't watch TV.
But I'm saying that a person can watch. I would
okay.
watch.
Right.
But there's more truth to that. I'm saying a lot of what you're saying is sitcom based or movie based.
Yeah.
And you're saying, you know what? It's actually not necessarily just in the movies, on the picture screen, so to speak.
No.
It's real life all the time that kind of
it
crap
is.
happens.
Right.
All the time.
Right. There's a whole industry based on making predators into victims. And it's an obscenely lucrative, powerful industry,
Yeah.
Well,
and an individual in power oftentimes, like you says, influences outcomes. Not, again, and where's the justice in that?
Right. And then the kid they wake up to the reality of the world doesn't care about you. You're irrelevant.
And he now turns into a villain because you said that was a privileged kid that gets beat up, or oftentimes it's an underprivileged
It might be
kid
that too.
that
Right.
gets beat up, and he's just the trash of society. Says
Right.
who?
Right.
Says you?
Right.
Because you have a nicer car than their family.
Yeah.
You live in a
Right.
bigger house than
Uh-huh.
that family.
Right.
So your kid's innocent because he didn't mean to. He's a good boy, just got a little emotional. But this kid, who's he? Trash. That's the storyline you want to teach him. He'll become that if you tell him that enough times.
We will. He'll become a super predator.
And that's absolutely a crime.
It is.
2 crimes, really.
Right. And you're creating a bigger criminal.
Right.
Right. You've got a juvenile delinquent who maybe should be, depending on their age, charged as an adult, but they're going to get much worse.
And I'm not justifying it, but you can sit back and when that kid that was perpetrated upon eventually does something, whatever it is, robbery, murder, rape, something bad, I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve to be punished, but you're going to say, when you hear the whole story, I understand why that happened. Why wouldn't he say, heck with it?
Right.
Doesn't make it right.
There's a hair trigger because the
Not
system-
advocating, because we helped turn him into that.
We did.
And a lot of people along the way.
Right.
Wasn't just one.
No.
Anybody who looked the other way, the police chief, the prosecutor, the defense, anybody who was in that circle.
Right. Right. It is a circle. Right. And that brings up something that I'm not going to focus on for this one, but that is, you're not your title. You are what you do.
Yep.
You are what moral decisions are the foundation of your behaviors, right? So if you're a psychiatrist or a mayor or police chief or a nurse or a doctor, dentist, a prosecuting attorney, whatever, and you don't use some deeply rooted, consistent moral structure for your decisions, you're corrupt.
Or myself as a parent, Mike, I want to take this down to a larger scale.
Please.
There's only a few prosecutors, defense attorneys,
Right.
or police.
Right.
There's a lot of parents.
Yes.
And on a much smaller scale and maybe in a less dramatic scale, from the storyline, a parent. How often do I see a parent go to bat for their kid when they know their kid did something wrong
Right.
and cover?
Right.
Whether it's a baseball bat through the window,
Yeah.
or a car accident, or beating up a kid, or lipping off to a teacher. When that parent intervenes and protects the child, what have you just done for that child?
You've licensed them.
Bingo. So at the end of it, on a much smaller, maybe not as big of a crime, so to speak, when we're talking about some of the big infractions, but on a bigger scale, I think that can talk to most of us, to where that is our job as individuals, or as a business owner. If I see somebody within my business doing something unethical,
Right.
or in a different business that I work with unethical, excuse me, that's a storyline that a lot of our shows up through, what are we on, 77, 78, what are we on today?
70.
That has echoed through a lot of, it's kind of the core theme of what we talk about, Mike, of doing
Yes.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, do that which is right. That's what Christ said to the Pharisees. Which of these things is right? They were playing all these legalistic games with him because they wanted to catch him.
Yeah, trap
Right.
him. Yeah.
Right. So he said, do that which is right. 5 words. Whoa.
Pretty simple.
Ooh.
Should get that tattooed on all of our foreheads.
Yeah. Do that which is right. Boy. Now, do you want to keep your kid from being run over by a patent tank when they screwed up? Yeah. You don't want them to be crushed, but you do want them
Accountability.
to feel some pain and learn a lesson,
Right.
You're going to mow 5 lawns for free,
Right.
right?
I had my son do that last week for
Oh, yeah.
talking improperly to his mother.
Wow. Okay.
One day
okay.
she was substitute teaching and she came
Okay.
home, and he is, Mike, truly, he's a good boy.
Yeah.
99% of the time.
Right.
But he's a human, just like I screw up, and he screwed up when his mom was a sub, and he decided during that time to play the mother-son instead of substitute. He got a double whammy from dad, pissing with the substitute teacher, and that happened to be his mother disrespecting. He did get to do some things extra
Yeah.
that weren't so much fun,
Right.
so he would remember.
Yeah.
And he did.
Right. That's good. You meant building character into him.
Yeah.
Instead of license.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I like that. So, if you pervert justice, you create tyranny,
Absolutely.
I'll say it again. If you pervert justice, you create tyranny. You know, it's scary. You know, but it's like, it doesn't happen like a landslide. It's a rock here and a rock there, and all of a sudden you built this wall of bullshit, and now life isn't so good for people.
Sure.
You know, it adds up. So I went to this, before I became a nurse, I went to this school. It was a little less than a year of training, was for a medical assistant. And we had all these things that they contractually promised to teach us. And one of them was x-ray work, right? So basically like a limited x-ray tech. And it's coming towards the end of the program. It's right in the brochure, right? Printed. And so I asked somebody one day, I said, what about this x-ray tech part of the program? Oh, maybe you'll get to learn that in the office when you go to work. That's not what your pamphlet says. I made this decision, and that was a big part of why I decided it. Well, we're going to focus on other things. You're not answering my question. Well, why don't you just do the best you can, you know, which is an implied threat, right? When you look at it closely. And are you happy here? You know, that kind of crap. Are you sure you want to be here? You know? And so I went to I think it was the state educational department, and they sent somebody in to do some negotiating with me, and I wasn't real happy about that. I got like half of my student loan paid off, but I still wound up owing, I can't remember, $1,200-1,500 or something for bullshit. And so I wasn't really happy with them. I contacted the U.S. Senator, Slade Gorton, and I went into some detail about what had been done and the fact that this was their contractual obligation to teach basic X-ray, you know, technology. A couple months later, the whole company went out of business. You know, they got what they deserved. You know, and it was a fraud. They committed a fraud, and I didn't speak one word dishonestly. I didn't exaggerate. You know, it's really important, because when you exaggerate and you misrepresent the truth and you mislead people by omission or commission, right? You no longer have a relationship with yourself or the world.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't afford to do that.
And it'll be easy to discredit you.
Right.
For anything.
If I do that, I'm making myself into garbage.
Yeah.
Right. So I was disciplined to not do that. And they're done.
Yeah.
You know, padlocked doors. There was 2 or 3 branches that they had. I think there was one in Seattle and one in Bellevue. And they were taking junkies off the street and admitting them into the program and letting them get in the program one day longer than was required for them to be obligated to pay back their loans. And then they would throw them out. Pure fraud. Right? Pure fraud. It doesn't always work. You know, you tell the truth, and it depends really on the amount of influence that you're dealing with and how crooked the people are that are supposedly overseeing it.
Yeah.
But to my astonishment, they got their butts kicked out of existence, which made me, I was shocked, but I was happy, you know.
Anger, vengeance, and justice. And they got theirs.
They did. They did. And the sad thing is, there was a lot of good people there that lost their jobs.
Yeah.
But they went along with it all.
Right.
You know. So.
They had their chance to make it right and didn't.
Yeah, they created the wave that they drowned in,
Right.
if you will,
Yeah.
you know.
All right.
So, yep.
There we go. Mike says, episode concluded. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you again in another episode of Reclaiming Timeless Ways.